Before we dive in, drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. And don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10 at the end. Now let's begin. The marble floors of Sinclair Estate gleamed under the afternoon sun, streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. Madison Hayes stood in the grand foyer, her canvas tote bag looking wildly out of place against the backdrop of priceless art and crystal chandeliers. She tugged at the hem of her simple cotton dress, suddenly aware of how every thread screamed clearance rack. "Miss Hayes." A woman's voice echoed from the curved staircase. Madison looked up to see Eleanor Sinclair descending with the grace of old money and the sharpness of a woman who got exactly what she wanted. Her silver hair was swept into an elegant chignon, pearls gleaming at her throat. "Thank you for coming on such short notice." Madison shifted her weight, clutching the strap of her bag. "Mrs. Sinclair, I'm still not entirely sure why I'm here. Your assistant said it was urgent, but wouldn't explain." Eleanor reached the bottom step, her heels clicking softly as she approached. Up close, her eyes were kind, but calculating, like a chess player surveying the board. "Walk with me, dear. We have much to discuss." They moved through the estate, past rooms Madison had only seen in magazines. Architecture Digest would weep. Finally, they arrived at a sunlit conservatory, filled with orchids and the soft trickle of a fountain. Eleanor gestured to a wrought iron chair. "Sit, please." Madison obeyed, her mind racing. 3 days ago, she'd been working her usual shift at the university library, stamping books and helping freshmen navigate the catalog system. Then an email arrived. "Eleanor Sinclair requests your presence. A car will collect you Friday at noon." And now here she was, sitting in a billionaire's greenhouse like some character in a period drama. "I'll be direct," Eleanor began, settling across from her. "I need you to pretend to be my son's girlfriend." Madison blinked. Once. Twice. "I'm sorry, what?" "My son, Nathan. He's 32, brilliant, stubborn as a mule, and completely devoted to avoiding anything resembling a personal life." Eleanor sighed, a mother's frustration bleeding through her polished exterior. "He throws himself into work, 16-hour days, board meetings, acquisitions. But a relationship? He acts as though I've suggested he swim with sharks." Madison's mouth opened, but no sound came out. This couldn't be real. Eleanor continued, her voice gaining momentum. "I've tried everything. Introductions to suitable women, charity galas, even a disastrous attempt at a matchmaking service." She waved a hand dismissively. "He sees through every setup, walks away before dessert is served. So I'm changing tactics." "By hiring a fake girlfriend," Madison said slowly, trying to wrap her mind around the absurdity. "Precisely." Eleanor leaned forward, eyes gleaming. "I want him to see what he's missing. A bit of jealousy can be remarkably motivating." Madison shook her head. "Mrs. Sinclair, I'm a librarian. I don't exactly run in billionaire circles." "That's exactly why you're perfect." Eleanor's smile was almost predatory. "You're genuine, unpretentious, and most importantly, you won't actually fall for him." Madison bit her lip. "How can you be sure?" "Because Nathan is difficult. Cold, even. He'll barely notice you exist beyond the inconvenience." Eleanor's tone softened slightly. "You'll attend a few family dinners, perhaps 1 or 2 public events. Smile, hold his hand, play the part. Then when he's sufficiently irritated, we'll stage a breakup. Simple. Simple. Right." Madison's internal alarm bells were clanging like a 5-alarm fire. "And what do I get out of this?" Eleanor slid an envelope across the small glass table. Madison opened it, her eyes widening at the check inside. $50,000. Her student loans flashed before her eyes. The medical bills from her mother's surgery last year. The roof leak she'd been ignoring because she couldn't afford a contractor. 1 month, Eleanor said firmly. That's all I ask. Madison stared at the check, then at the elegant woman watching her with quiet expectation. Every reasonable part of her brain screamed to run. But the practical part, the part that had been struggling to stay afloat for years, whispered, "This could change everything." She exhaled slowly. What if he figures it out? He won't. Nathan doesn't believe anyone would go to such lengths. He'll assume I'm simply meddling again, which I am. But he won't suspect you're being compensated. Madison folded the check, her hands trembling slightly. When do I start? Eleanor's smile could have lit the whole conservatory. Tonight. Family dinner at 7. I'll have a stylist sent to your apartment at 4. A stylist? Dear girl, you're about to become a Sinclair. Even if only temporarily. We have standards. Madison laughed despite herself, a half-hysterical sound. I think I've just agreed to the most insane thing I've ever done. That's the spirit. Eleanor stood, offering her hand. Welcome to the family, Madison. Try not to look terrified when you meet Nathan. It ruins the illusion. As Madison was escorted back through the estate to the waiting car, she caught her reflection in a gilded mirror. Wide brown eyes, freckles scattered across her nose, hair that refused to cooperate even on good days. She looked exactly like what she was, a girl in over her head. The car door shut with an expensive thunk. As they pulled away from Sinclair Estate, Madison pulled out her phone and Googled Nathan Sinclair. The screen filled with images. Sharp jaw, dark hair always perfectly styled. Eyes the color of winter storms. In every photo, he wore the same expression. Detached, unreachable, like a man carved from ice. Great, Madison muttered. I'm about to fake date a robot in a suit. But as she scrolled further, one photo stopped her cold. A college newspaper clipping, years old, half buried in the search results. Nathan Sinclair captains debate team to nationals. Madison's breath caught. She zoomed in, her heart suddenly pounding. No, it couldn't be. But it was. The same sharp features, younger, less hardened. And standing beside him, holding a trophy, grinning like they'd conquered the world, was Madison herself. She'd forgotten. Or maybe she'd buried it so deep it felt like someone else's memory. Nathan Sinclair. Nate. The brilliant, intense debate partner who'd made her pulse race every time he argued a point. Who'd stayed up with her until 3 a.m. practicing rebuttals in the empty library. Who'd looked at her once, just once, like she was the only person in the room. Then he'd graduated, vanished into his family's empire, and Madison had convinced herself it didn't matter. Her hands shook as she locked her phone. Eleanor Sinclair had no idea. No idea that her fake daughter-in-law wasn't a stranger at all. Madison pressed her forehead against the cool window, watching the city blur past. What have I gotten myself into? At precisely 7 p.m., Madison stood before the imposing double doors of Sinclair Estate once more, this time wearing a dress that cost more than her rent. The stylist had transformed her into someone almost unrecognizable. Hair sleek and glossy, makeup subtle but flawless, heels that made her 3 inches taller and infinitely less stable. You can do this, she whispered to herself. It's just dinner. With your ex-debate partner. Who doesn't remember you? While pretending to be his girlfriend. No big deal. The door swung open. A butler, because of course there was a butler, gestured her inside. The dining room was absurdly elegant. A table long enough to seat 20, though only 4 places were set. Crystal glinted under soft chandelier light. Eleanor appeared, resplendent in emerald silk. Madison, darling, you look perfect. She air-kissed both cheeks. Nathan is running late naturally, work crisis, but he'll be here. Madison's stomach twisted. What if he doesn't believe this? What if he takes one look at me and knows? Then you smile and hold your ground. Confidence, dear. Confidence is everything. Footsteps echoed in the hall. Madison's entire body tensed. And then Nathan Sinclair walked into the room. He was somehow more striking in person, taller than she remembered, shoulders broader, presence more commanding. The same storm-gray eyes, but colder now, hardened by a decade of boardrooms and billion-dollar decisions. He moved with the grace of a man who knew his worth and expected the world to accommodate it. His gaze swept the room, landing on Madison with all the warmth of a winter frost. "Mother," he said, voice clipped, "you didn't mention we'd have company." Eleanor's smile didn't waver. "Nathan, I'd like you to meet Madison Hayes." "Your girlfriend." The silence that followed could have shattered glass. Nathan's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind those eyes. Confusion, irritation, and then, just for a heartbeat, recognition. Madison's breath stopped. He knows. But then he blinked, and the moment passed, replaced by his usual mask of indifference. "My what?" "Your girlfriend," Eleanor repeated cheerfully. "Madison, this is my son, Nathan." Madison extended her hand, forcing her voice to stay steady. "Nice to meet you." Nathan stared at her hand like it might bite him. Finally, he shook it, his grip firm and brief. "I don't have a girlfriend." "You do now," Eleanor said brightly, guiding them toward the table. "Sit, both of you. Dinner is getting cold." Nathan remained standing, his jaw tight. "Mother, what game are you playing?" "No game. Madison and I had a lovely chat this afternoon. She's charming, intelligent, and clearly far too good for you, but she's agreed to tolerate your company." Madison sank into her chair, wishing the floor would open and swallow her whole. Nathan sat slowly, his gaze never leaving Madison. "How much is she paying you?" Madison flinched. "Excuse me." "My mother." "How much did she offer to get you to play along with this charade?" Eleanor gasped. "Nathan Sinclair, that is incredibly rude." "It's a valid question." He leaned back, arms crossed. "Let me guess. 50,000? 100? She's certainly willing to invest in meddling." Madison's cheeks burned, but she lifted her chin. "Your mother didn't force me. I agreed because I thought it might be interesting." "Interesting?" Nathan's tone dripped skepticism. "To pretend to date a man you've never met." "We've met before, actually," Madison said quietly. Nathan froze. "What?" "College. We were on the debate team together. 10 years ago." The room fell utterly silent. Nathan studied her, really looked for the first time. His eyes narrowed, scanning her face, and then, there. Recognition slammed into him, undeniable and sharp. "Maddie," he breathed. Her heart clenched at the old nickname. "Hi, Nate." Nathan's composure cracked, just for a second. His hand tightened on the armrest, knuckles white. Then he stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "I need a word with my mother. Alone." Eleanor's smile turned into something almost triumphant. "Of course." "Darling." They disappeared into the hall, voices rising immediately. Madison couldn't make out the words, but the tone was unmistakable. Nathan was furious. She sat frozen, her pulse hammering. He remembered. After all these years, after everything, he remembered. When they returned, Nathan's face was a mask of ice, but his eyes burned. Eleanor looked insufferably pleased. "Madison," Nathan said tightly, reclaiming his seat. "It seems we're stuck with each other for the next month." "Seems that way," she replied, matching his cool tone. Eleanor clapped her hands together. Wonderful. Now let's eat before the cook quits. Dinner was the most excruciating hour of Madison's life. Every bite felt like swallowing glass, while Nathan sat across from her, radiating silent fury. He barely spoke except to answer his mother's questions in clipped monosyllables. Madison focused on her plate, hyper-aware of every glance, every shift in his posture. This wasn't the Nate she remembered. That Nate had laughed, debated with passion, stayed up late arguing philosophy just for the thrill of it. This Nathan was a stranger. Finally, Eleanor excused herself, citing an early morning meeting. Madison, dear, Nathan will drive you home. That's not necessary, Madison said quickly. I insist. Eleanor's tone left no room for argument. Nathan, be a gentleman. The moment Eleanor's heels clicked out of earshot, Nathan turned to Madison, his voice low and dangerous. What are you playing at? Madison met his gaze, refusing to flinch. I'm not playing anything. You show up after a decade, agree to this absurd scheme, and expect me to believe it's coincidence? Your mother reached out to me, Madison shot back. I had no idea it was you until I saw your photo. Convenient. Believe what you want, Nathan. I didn't come here to manipulate you. He leaned closer, and she caught the faint scent of his cologne, something dark and woodsy. Then why did you come? Madison hesitated. The truth hovered on her tongue. Debt, desperation, survival. But pride won out. Maybe I wanted to see if you were still as insufferable as I remembered. A muscle in his jaw ticked. And? Verdict's still out. For a moment, something almost like amusement flickered across his face. Then it vanished, replaced by cold detachment. Let's go. The drive to Madison's apartment was silent except for the low hum of the engine. Nathan's car was sleek, expensive, the kind of vehicle that cost more than she'd earn in 5 years. She kept her gaze fixed on the window, watching the city lights blur. You still live on Camden Street? Nathan asked suddenly. Madison glanced at him, surprised. How did you know? I remember. His voice was soft, almost reluctant. You used to complain about the broken heater. Her throat tightened. It's still broken. He didn't respond, but his grip on the steering wheel tightened. When they pulled up to her building, a modest walk-up with chipping paint, Madison reached for the door handle. Thanks for the ride. Madison. She paused, looking back. Nathan's expression was unreadable, but his eyes held something raw, something unguarded. Why did you really agree to this? She could lie. She should lie. But something about the way he looked at her, like he was searching for the girl he used to know, made the truth slip out. Because I needed the money, because life has been hard, and this felt like a lifeline. She swallowed, her voice cracking slightly. And maybe because part of me wondered if you'd remember me. His face softened, just for a heartbeat. I never forgot. The words hit her like a punch to the chest. Before she could respond, he looked away, jaw tight. Good night, Madison. She stepped out, the door closing with a finality that echoed in her bones. Inside her tiny apartment, Madison collapsed onto her threadbare couch, still wearing the expensive dress. She pressed her hands to her face, trying to steady her breathing. Nathan Sinclair remembered her. The boy who'd made her believe in something beyond survival, beyond struggle. And now she was supposed to pretend to love him, to win some twisted game orchestrated by his mother. Maddie, what have you done? She whispered into the empty room. The next morning, Madison woke to 17 missed calls and a text from Eleanor. Brunch tomorrow. Dress nicely. Photographers will be present. Photographers. Madison groaned, pulling a pillow over her face. This was officially spiraling. Her phone buzzed again. This time, Nathan. "We need to talk. Meet me at Monroe's Cafe. 1 hour." She stared at the message, her stomach knotting. Part of her wanted to ignore it, to bail on this whole insane arrangement. But $50,000 sat in her bank account now, already earmarked for overdue bills. She couldn't back out. Not yet. Monroe's Cafe was a small, upscale spot tucked between high-rises. Madison arrived to find Nathan already seated by the window, looking unfairly perfect in a dark sweater and jeans. He glanced up as she approached, his expression guarded. "Sit," he said, not unkindly. She slid into the chair across from him, folding her hands in her lap. "So, talk." Nathan exhaled slowly, running a hand through his hair. It was the first time she'd seen him look anything less than perfectly composed. "This is a disaster. Glad we agree. But we're in it now." He met her eyes, his gaze intense. "If we're going to survive the next month without killing each other, or my mother, we need ground rules." Madison nodded. "Okay. Like what?" "No personal questions. No dredging up the past. We play the part in public. But in private, we keep our distance." Each word felt like a small cut. Madison forced her voice to stay steady. "Fine. Anything else?" "Yes." He leaned forward, his voice dropping. "Don't make me care about you again." The rawness in his tone stole her breath. "Nathan, I'm serious, Maddie." He looked away, jaw clenched. 10 years ago, you were the only person who made me feel like I was more than just a Sinclair heir. And when I left, I spent 2 years trying to forget you." Madison's chest ached. "You never called." "Because I knew if I did, I wouldn't be able to stay away." His gaze snapped back to hers, fierce and unrelenting. "So let's not pretend this is anything more than a transaction. I don't have the luxury of falling for you twice." Tears pricked her eyes, but she blinked them away. "Understood." "Good." He signaled the waiter, his mask sliding back into place. "Now, let's get coffee and figure out how to convince the world we're madly in love." The next week was a whirlwind. Madison attended brunches, gallery openings, and a charity gala, where Nathan's hand stayed firmly on her waist the entire night. To the outside world, they were the perfect couple, attentive, affectionate, inseparable. But every smile was calculated, every touch rehearsed. At night, Madison lay awake, replaying the moments when Nathan's guard slipped, the way he steadied her when she stumbled in heels, the fleeting softness in his eyes when she laughed at something his mother said. She was playing a dangerous game, and the lines were blurring faster than she could redraw them. One evening, after yet another exhausting event, Nathan drove her home in silence. As they pulled up to her building, he didn't immediately unlock the doors. "What?" Madison asked, glancing at him. "You were good tonight," he said quietly. "Convincing." "So were you." He turned toward her, and the space between them felt impossibly small. "Was I?" Her breath hitched. "Nathan, tell me something, Maddie." His voice was rough, barely above a whisper. "Are you still pretending?" Her heart slammed against her ribs. "I don't know." For a long moment they sat there, the city humming around them, the air thick with everything unsaid. Then Nathan unlocked the doors. "Good night, Madison." She stepped out, legs shaking, and watched him drive away. Inside her apartment, she pressed her back against the door and closed her eyes. One thought echoed. Relentless and terrifying. I'm not pretending anymore. The next morning, Madison stood in front of her bathroom mirror, gripping the sink so hard her knuckles turned white. "You're a professional," she told her reflection. "You can handle this." Her reflection looked unconvinced. A sharp knock on the door made her jump. She wasn't expecting anyone. Padding over in bare feet and an oversized sweatshirt, she peered through the peephole. Nathan. Her heart lurched. She opened the door a crack. "What are you doing here?" He stood in the hallway, hands in his pockets, looking oddly out of place in his tailored coat, against the backdrop of her building's faded wallpaper. "My mother's throwing a garden party this afternoon. She wants you there." She could have called. She did. You didn't answer. Madison glanced at her phone, still charging on the kitchen counter. 17 missed calls. Again. "I was asleep." Nathan's gaze swept over her. Rumpled hair. No makeup. The sweatshirt that hung past her knees. Something unreadable flickered in his eyes. "You look different." "I look like a disaster." "I didn't say that." His voice was softer than she expected. "You look real." The compliment, if it was a compliment, caught her off guard. She pulled the door open wider. "Do you want to come in? I need to get ready, but I'll wait." He stepped inside, his presence instantly making her small apartment feel even smaller. Madison watched as he took in the cramped space, stacks of books on every surface, a kitchen barely big enough for one person, the couch that doubled as her laundry folding station. "Sorry," she muttered. "It's not exactly Sinclair Estate." "It's fine." He picked up a book from the coffee table, Pride and Prejudice, dog-eared and worn. "You still read Austen?" "Some things don't change." He set the book down carefully. "Most things do." Madison disappeared into her bedroom, shutting the door firmly behind her. Her hands trembled as she pulled out the only dress fancy enough for a Sinclair garden party. This was insane. Nathan Sinclair, billionaire CEO, waiting in her living room while she frantically tried to make herself presentable. She emerged 20 minutes later, hair tamed into soft waves, wearing a pale yellow sundress. Nathan looked up from his phone, and for a moment, he simply stared. "What?" Madison touched her hair self-consciously. "Is it bad?" "No." He cleared his throat. Standing. "It's good. You're good. Ready?" The drive to the estate was quieter than usual. Madison stole glances at Nathan, noticing the tension in his shoulders, the way his jaw stayed locked. "You okay?" she asked finally. "Fine." "You're a terrible liar." His lips twitched, almost a smile. "Pot. Meat kettle. Fair point." She hesitated, then plunged ahead. "Nathan, about last night." "Don't." He cut her off, voice sharp, then softer. "Please, let's just get through today." Madison nodded, swallowing the words threatening to spill out. The rest of the ride passed in silence. The garden party was exactly as absurd as Madison had feared. White tents billowed in the breeze. String quartets played near the rose bushes. And guests in designer outfits sipped champagne and nibbled on hors d'oeuvres that probably cost more than her monthly grocery budget. Eleanor descended upon them immediately, resplendent in lavender silk. "Madison, darling, you look lovely." "Nathan, do try to smile. You're scaring the guests." "I'm not here to entertain," Nathan muttered. "You're here to be seen with your beautiful girlfriend." Eleanor looped her arm through Madison's. "Come, dear. There are people you simply must meet." Madison shot Nathan a helpless look as Eleanor steered her away. He watched them go, his expression unreadable. For the next 2 hours, Madison was paraded around like a prized show pony. She met investors, socialites, old family friends, all of whom asked probing questions disguised as polite conversation. "How did you meet?" "College," Madison answered, the lie feeling heavier each time. "We were on the debate team together." "How romantic. And when did you reconnect?" "Recently." "Fate, I suppose." The woman, Mrs. Calloway, wife of some tech mogul, smiled knowingly. "Well, Nathan is quite the catch. I hope you know how lucky you are." Madison's smile felt like it might crack her face. Incredibly lucky. Finally, she escaped to the rose garden, desperate for a moment alone. She sank onto a stone bench, kicking off her heels and wiggling her aching toes. Hiding? She looked up to find Nathan approaching, 2 champagne flutes in hand. He offered her one. Desperately, she admitted, accepting the glass. Your mother's friends are terrifying. They smell weakness like sharks smell blood. He sat beside her, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. You handled them well. I'm a librarian. I've dealt with worse. Worse than Mrs. Calloway? Try a horde of undergrads during finals week. Madison took a sip, the bubbles tickling her nose. Your world is exhausting, Nathan. Tell me about it. He stared out at the manicured hedges, his profile sharp in the afternoon light. I didn't choose it, you know. This life, it chose me. You could have walked away. Could I? He turned toward her, and the weight in his eyes made her chest ache. My father built this empire expecting me to carry it forward. When he died, I was 25 and suddenly responsible for 10,000 employees, shareholders, legacy. Walking away wasn't an option. Madison set her glass down. But you wanted to. Once. His voice dropped to barely a whisper. There was a semester, senior year, when I thought about disappearing. Just leaving it all behind. Going somewhere no one knew my name. Why didn't you? He looked at her, and the rawness in his gaze stole her breath. Because I didn't have a reason strong enough to stay. The implication hung between them. Unspoken, but deafening. Madison's pulse hammered. Nathan, there you are. Eleanor's voice shattered the moment. She appeared on the garden path, beaming. Come, both of you. Time for the photographs. Nathan stood, his mask sliding back into place. He offered Madison his hand. Duty calls. She took it, his grip warm and steady, and let him pull her to her feet. The photo session was choreographed chaos. The photographer positioned them in front of a rose-covered arbor, directing poses with military precision. Mr. Sinclair, hand on her waist. Miss Hayes, lean into him. Perfect. Now look at each other. Madison tilted her head up. Nathan looked down. Their eyes met, and the world narrowed to just the two of them. Beautiful, the photographer murmured. Hold that. But Madison barely heard him. All she could see was Nathan, the way his gaze softened, the slight curve of his lips, the vulnerability bleeding through his carefully constructed armor. Nathan, she whispered. His hand on her waist tightened, pulling her closer. Maddie, if you keep looking at me like that, like what? Like you mean it, her breath caught. What if I do? The camera shutter clicked rapidly, capturing every second, but neither of them moved. We're supposed to be pretending, Nathan said, his voice strained. I know. So why does it feel real? Madison's heart slammed against her ribs. I don't know. For a moment, she thought he might kiss her. His gaze dropped to her lips, and the air between them turned electric. Then Eleanor's voice cut through. Perfect, darlings. Absolutely perfect. Nathan stepped back, releasing her. The loss of his warmth felt like a physical ache. That evening, as Nathan drove her home, the silence was suffocating. Today was, Madison started. A performance, Nathan interrupted. Nothing more. The word stung, but Madison forced herself to nod. Right. Of course. They pulled up to her building. Madison reached for the door, but Nathan caught her wrist. Wait. She froze, pulse racing. Nathan's thumb brushed the inside of her wrist, a touch so gentle it made her want to cry. I'm trying, Maddie. I'm trying to keep this professional, but you make it so damn hard. Maybe you should stop trying, she whispered. His eyes snapped to hers, wild and conflicted. "You don't know what you're asking." "Then tell me." For a long moment he said nothing. Then slowly, he released her wrist. "Good night, Madison." She stepped out, legs shaking, and watched him drive away for what felt like the 100th time. Inside, she collapsed onto her couch and pulled out her phone. A text from Eleanor waited. "The photos are gorgeous, darling. Nathan looks happier than I've seen him in years. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." Madison stared at the message, her chest tight. What was she doing? She'd agreed to a simple arrangement. Pretend, collect her money, walk away. But somewhere along the way, the lines had blurred. And now, sitting alone in her apartment, she had to face the terrifying truth. She wasn't pretending anymore. She'd fallen for Nathan Sinclair all over again. And this time, it might destroy her. Madison didn't sleep that night. She tossed and turned, replaying every moment, every touch, every word. By the time dawn crept through her curtains, she'd made a decision. She couldn't do this anymore. Not like this. At 8 a.m., her phone rang. Nathan. Her hand hovered over the screen, heart hammering. Finally, she answered. "Hello." "I need to see you." His voice was rough, like he hadn't slept either. "Now." "Nathan, I don't think—" "Please, Maddie." The raw plea in his tone shattered her resolve. "Where?" "I'll send a car." 20 minutes later, Madison stood in front of Sinclair Tower, the glass skyscraper that housed Nathan's empire. She'd never been inside. As the elevator shot upward, her stomach dropped. The doors opened onto the executive floor, all sleek lines and floor-to-ceiling windows. Nathan's assistant, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s, greeted her with a knowing smile. "Miss Hayes, Mr. Sinclair's expecting you." She led Madison to a corner office with a view that stretched across the entire city. Nathan stood by the window, hands in his pockets, shoulders tense. "Leave us," he said quietly. The assistant disappeared, closing the door with a soft click. Silence stretched, taut and fragile. "Why am I here, Nathan?" Madison asked finally. He turned, and the look on his face made her breath catch. "Because I can't stop thinking about you." Her heart stuttered. "Nathan, I know what we agreed. I know the rules." He crossed the room in 3 long strides, stopping just inches away. "But I'm breaking them. All of them." Madison's pulse roared in her ears. "This is a bad idea. I don't care. Your mother. This isn't about my mother." His hands came up, framing her face, and his touch was so gentle it made her want to cry. "This is about you and me, about the fact that I've spent 10 years trying to forget you, and in 2 weeks, you've completely undone me." Tears burned her eyes. "You said not to make you care." Too late. His forehead dropped to hers, his breath warm against her lips. "I already do." Madison's hands fisted in his shirt, torn between pushing him away and pulling him closer. "This will complicate everything. Let it." And then he kissed her. It was nothing like the careful, calculated touches they'd shared for the cameras. This was raw, desperate. 10 years of longing and regret poured into a single moment. Madison melted against him, her hand sliding up to tangle in his hair, and Nathan groaned, deepening the kiss. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Madison pressed her forehead to his chest. "What are we doing?" "I have no idea," Nathan admitted, his arms wrapping around her. "But I don't want to stop." She pulled back, meeting his gaze. "What about the arrangement? Your mother?" "I'll tell her the truth, that we don't need to fake it anymore." "And what if this doesn't work?" Madison's voice cracked. "What if we crash and burn?" Nathan cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheekbone. Then at least we'll have tried. I'm not losing you again without a fight. Madison closed her eyes, tears spilling over. I'm scared. So am I. He kissed her forehead, soft and lingering. But I'd rather be terrified with you than safe and alone. She laughed through her tears, a shaky, breathless sound. You're such a cliché right now. Blame you. You make me lose all sense of dignity. For the first time in weeks, the tension between them dissolved into something warm and real. They stood there, wrapped in each other, the city sprawling below them, and for a moment, everything felt possible. Then Nathan's phone buzzed. He groaned, pulling it out. His expression darkened. What is it? Madison asked. My mother. Emergency board meeting. He looked torn. I have to go. It's okay. Come with me. Madison blinked. To a board meeting? Why not? His lips quirked. Consider it your introduction to the glamorous world of corporate finance. I'm a librarian, Nathan. I don't speak corporate. You'll fit right in. Half the board doesn't either. Despite herself, Madison laughed. Fine, but if I fall asleep, it's your fault. The boardroom was everything Madison expected. Long table, leather chairs, intimidating men and women in expensive suits. Nathan sat at the head, his demeanor shifting instantly into CEO mode. Madison took a seat along the wall, trying to blend into the background. The meeting was dry, full of jargon and projected earnings. Madison's attention drifted, her gaze wandering to Nathan. He was magnetic like this, commanding, sharp, every inch the leader his father had groomed him to be. But she also saw the strain, the way his jaw tightened when someone questioned his strategy, the flicker of frustration in his eyes. An hour in, one board member, a silver-haired man with a condescending smile, leaned back. Nathan, let's address the elephant in the room. Your personal life has been splashed across social media lately. Some shareholders are concerned about distractions. Nathan's expression didn't change, but Madison saw his hand tighten on the pen. My personal life has a bearing on my ability to run this company. Perception matters, the man countered, and right now, the perception is that you're more focused on a relationship than on the bottom line. Madison's blood boiled. Before she could stop herself, she stood. Excuse me. Every head turned toward her. Miss Hayes, Nathan said, his voice carefully neutral. You don't have to. No, I do. Madison stepped forward, her heart pounding but her voice steady. I've sat here for an hour listening to you dissect numbers and projections. And not once have any of you acknowledged that Nathan has increased this company's value by 30% in the last 2 years. He's negotiated deals that competitors couldn't touch. He's built something his father would be proud of. The silver-haired man raised an eyebrow. And you are? Someone who sees what you apparently don't. Nathan Sinclair is brilliant. And if his personal life makes him happy, maybe that's what this company needs. A CEO who's human, not a robot. Silence filled the room. Then, to Madison's shock, one woman started clapping. Slowly, others joined in. Nathan stared at her, something raw and unguarded in his eyes. The silver-haired man cleared his throat. Well, that was enlightening. Shall we move on? The meeting concluded shortly after, as the board members filed out. Several nodded at Madison with grudging respect. When the room finally emptied, Nathan crossed to her, his expression unreadable. I'm sorry, Madison said quickly. I shouldn't have. He kissed her, hard and quick, stealing her breath and every coherent thought. When he pulled back, his smile was blinding. Don't ever apologize for that. Madison laughed, dizzy. Your board probably thinks I'm insane. They think you're fearless. He laced his fingers through hers. And they're right. That evening, they sat in Nathan's penthouse, a sprawling space with minimalist decor and a view that made Madison feel like she was floating above the city. "So," she said, curled up on his absurdly comfortable couch. "What now?" Nathan handed her a glass of wine, settling beside her. "Now we tell my mother," Madison groaned. "She's going to kill us." "Possibly." He took a sip, his gaze distant. "Or she'll be insufferably smug that her plan worked." "Did it, though?" Madison tilted her head. "I mean, she wanted to make you jealous. Not this." Nathan set his glass down, turning toward her. "Maddie, I wasn't jealous of some imaginary rival. I was jealous of every second I didn't have with you." Her chest tightened. "You're really good at this." "At what?" "Saying things that make my heart stop." He smiled, a real, genuine smile that transformed his entire face. "Then my plan is working." They spent the rest of the evening talking, really talking, for the first time in years. Nathan told her about the pressure of running Sinclair Industries, the loneliness that came with the name. Madison shared stories of her mother's illness, the struggle to keep afloat, the dreams she'd put on hold. "I wanted to be a writer," she admitted quietly. "Novels, maybe. But life got in the way. It's not too late," says the billionaire. Nathan caught her hand, his expression serious. "Maddie, you're one of the smartest, most talented people I've ever met. If you want to write, I'll support you. Whatever you need." Tears pricked her eyes. "Why are you so good to me?" "Because you deserve it." He pulled her closer, his arms wrapping around her. "And because I'm selfish. I want you in my life, whatever that looks like." Madison buried her face in his shoulder, her heart so full it ached. "I'm still scared." "Me too." He pressed a kiss to her hair. "But we'll figure it out. Together." The next morning, they drove to Sinclair Estate together. Madison's nerves hummed like live wires. "What if she's angry?" she asked for the third time. Nathan squeezed her hand. "Then I'll handle it." Eleanor was in the conservatory, tending to her orchids, when they arrived. She looked up, her expression brightening. "Madison, Nathan, what a lovely surprise." "Mother, we need to talk," Nathan said. Eleanor set down her pruning shears, her gaze sharpening. "That sounds ominous." They sat, and Nathan didn't let go of Madison's hand. "The arrangement is over." Eleanor's face fell. "Oh, I see. Well, I suppose I pushed too hard?" "You don't understand," Nathan interrupted. "We're together. For real." Eleanor blinked. Once, twice, then her face split into the widest smile Madison had ever seen. "Oh, darling. I knew it." "You knew what?" Nathan frowned. "That you two were perfect for each other." Eleanor clapped her hands together. "Madison, I saw that photo from college tucked in Nathan's desk drawer years ago. He never spoke about you, but I knew. A mother always knows." Madison's jaw dropped. You planned this?" "Not entirely, but I had a hunch." Eleanor winked. "Sometimes fate just needs a little nudge." Nathan groaned, rubbing his face. "You're unbelievable." "I prefer visionary." Eleanor stood, pulling them both into a hug. "Welcome to the family, Madison, officially this time." Over the following weeks, life settled into a new rhythm. Madison moved some of her things into Nathan's penthouse, though she kept her apartment, just in case. They navigated the strange world of public relationships, dealing with paparazzi, social media speculation, and the endless scrutiny that came with the Sinclair name. But they also found moments of quiet joy. Lazy Sunday mornings in bed, Nathan reading while Madison wrote. Late-night walks through the city, hand in hand. Dinners with Eleanor, who'd taken to treating Madison like the daughter she never had. One evening, Nathan came home to find Madison at his kitchen table, laptop open, fingers flying across the keyboard. "What's this?" he asked, reading over her shoulder. "A story." Madison bit her lip. "I don't know if it's any good." Nathan read silently, his expression unreadable. Then he looked at her, and his eyes shone. "Maddie, this is incredible. Really, really." He pulled her to her feet, wrapping his arms around her. "You have to finish it." "I will." She smiled, resting her head on his chest. "Thanks to you. I didn't do anything. You believed in me." She pulled back, meeting his gaze. "That's everything." Nathan kissed her, slow and sweet, and Madison felt the last pieces of her walls crumble. But of course, life wasn't a fairy tale. Complications arose. One afternoon, Madison received a call from an unknown number. She answered hesitantly. "Hello?" "Miss Hayes." A man's voice, smooth and professional. "My name is Gregory Hale. I'm a journalist with the Financial Tribune." Madison's stomach dropped. "How did you get this number?" "I have my sources. I wanted to give you a chance to comment on a story I'm running. It's about your relationship with Nathan Sinclair. I don't have anything to say. Even if I tell you I have evidence that your relationship began as a paid arrangement orchestrated by Eleanor Sinclair." Madison's blood turned to ice. "That's not. I have the bank records, Miss Hayes. $50,000 transferred from Eleanor Sinclair to your account. How do you think the public will react when they find out Nathan Sinclair's girlfriend was bought and paid for?" The line went dead. Madison stood frozen, phone still pressed to her ear. Her mind raced. If that story broke, it would destroy Nathan's reputation. The board would have ammunition. Competitors would pounce. And Nathan? She had to tell him. That night, she waited until Nathan came home, exhausted from a 14-hour day. He smiled when he saw her, but it faded when he caught her expression. "What's wrong?" Madison told him everything. With every word, his face grew harder. "When is the story running?" he asked, his voice dangerously calm. "I don't know. Soon, probably." Nathan pulled out his phone, making a call. "I need legal on this. Now." For the next 3 days, chaos reigned. Nathan's lawyers worked around the clock to suppress the story, but Hale had covered his tracks. The article dropped on a Wednesday morning, splashed across the Tribune's front page. Sinclair heir's sham romance, billionaire's girlfriend, was hired by his mother. Madison read the article with a sinking heart. It laid out everything: the arrangement, the payment, even included quotes from anonymous sources within the Sinclair household. Her phone exploded with notifications. Friends, acquaintances, strangers, all demanding answers. Nathan called. "Stay in the penthouse. Don't talk to anyone." "Nathan, I'm so sorry. This isn't your fault." His voice was steel. "I'm handling it." But when she turned on the news, she saw the damage. Stock prices dipped. Commentators speculated. Social media tore them apart. Madison felt like she was drowning. That evening, Nathan came home. Tie loosened. Exhaustion etched into every line of his face. He found Madison curled up on the couch, eyes red from crying. "Hey," he said softly, sitting beside her. "Hey, look at me." She did, and fresh tears spilled over. "I've ruined everything." "No, you haven't. They're saying terrible things. About you, about me. The board can go to hell." Nathan cupped her face, his gaze fierce. "Maddie, listen to me. This will blow over. It always does. What if it doesn't? What if you lose everything because of me? Then I'll still have you." His voice cracked slightly. "And that's enough." Madison shook her head, despair clawing at her. "You don't mean that." "I do." He pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly it hurt. "I love you, Maddie. I've loved you since we were 22, and you argued me into submission over Kant's ethics, and I'll love you through this." She sobbed into his shoulder, her heart breaking and mending all at once. "I love you too." They stayed like that for a long time, the city glittering below them, the world falling apart around them, but together. The backlash was brutal. For a week, Nathan and Madison became the internet's favorite punching bags. Memes, think pieces, brutal commentary. It was relentless. Nathan faced emergency board meetings. Shareholders demanded answers. His PR team worked overtime to spin the narrative, but the damage was done. Madison stayed hidden in the penthouse, guilt eating her alive. Every headline felt like a personal attack, and she knew Nathan was suffering because of her. One night, unable to sleep, she sat by the window, staring out at the city. Nathan found her there, 2 a.m., tears streaming silently down her face. "Maddie." He sank down beside her, pulling her into his lap. "Talk to me." "Maybe I should leave," she whispered. "Go back to my apartment. Give you space to fix this." "No." "Nathan." I said no. His arms tightened around her. "We're in this together. I'm not letting you run. But your company will survive. It always does." He tilted her chin up, forcing her to meet his gaze. "You know what won't survive? Me losing you." "You're being ridiculous." "Then I'm ridiculous." He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. "I don't care. Stay." Madison closed her eyes, leaning into him. "Okay." The next day, Nathan did something unexpected. He called a press conference. Madison watched from his office, her stomach in knots, as he stood before a sea of reporters. "I'm here to address recent allegations about my personal life," Nathan began, his voice steady. "It's true that my mother arranged for Madison Hayes and me to spend time together. What the articles failed to mention is that Madison and I have history. We knew each other in college. We were friends." He paused, and Madison held her breath. "When Madison agreed to my mother's plan, it wasn't about money. It was about giving an old friend a second chance. And in the process, I fell in love with her. Not because of some arrangement, but because she's brilliant, kind, and challenges me to be better." A reporter shouted a question, but Nathan held up a hand. "Madison Hayes is not some gold digger or opportunist. She's a woman who's worked hard her entire life, who puts others before herself, and who's been subjected to vicious attacks because of her association with me. If anyone deserves an apology, it's her." He looked directly into the camera, and Madison felt his gaze like a touch. "Maddie, if you're watching, I'm sorry. Sorry that loving me comes with this cost. But I'm not sorry for loving you." And I won't stop. The conference erupted into chaos, but Nathan walked off the stage, ignoring the shouts. Madison's phone rang. "Nathan." "Did you watch?" he asked. "Every second," she whispered, tears streaming. "Good. Now get dressed. We're going out." "Nathan, the paparazzi, let them look." His voice was fierce. "I'm done hiding." An hour later, they walked hand in hand down Fifth Avenue, cameras flashing, crowds gathering. Nathan didn't flinch, didn't falter. He kept Madison close, his message clear. She's mine. And I'm hers. That evening, Eleanor called, her voice trembling. "Nathan, that press conference. Darling, I'm so proud of you." "It was the right thing to do," Nathan said simply. "Madison, dear," Eleanor said, and Madison heard her smile through the phone. "Welcome to the family." Officially and irrevocably. Over the following weeks, the tide began to turn. Nathan's transparency won over skeptics. Madison received messages of support from strangers. Even some of the harshest critics softened. The board, after heated debate, issued a statement backing Nathan. Shareholder confidence returned. The storm, slowly, began to pass. One Saturday morning, Madison woke to an empty bed. She found Nathan in the kitchen, cooking, or attempting to. Smoke billowed from a pan. "What are you doing?" she asked, laughing. "Making you breakfast." He gestured helplessly at the charred eggs. "It's not going well." Madison took over, rescuing the meal, while Nathan watched, a soft smile on his face. "What?" she asked, feeling his gaze. "Just thinking." About how you saved me." Madison flipped a pancake, her chest warming. "Pretty sure you saved me first." "Then we're even." After breakfast, Nathan pulled out a small box. Madison's heart stopped. "Relax," he said, lips twitching. "It's not a ring. Yet." He opened it to reveal a delicate silver bracelet engraved with coordinates. "What is this?" Madison asked, tracing the numbers. "The library, where we first met." Nathan fastened it around her wrist, his touch gentle. "I want you to remember, no matter what happens, we started there. 2 kids arguing about philosophy, and we'll end there too." "End?" "Bad phrasing," he grinned. "I mean, we'll always come back to it. To us." Madison kissed him, slow and deep, pouring everything she couldn't say into that single moment. When they broke apart, Nathan rested his forehead against hers. "I love you, Maddie Parker Hayes." "I love you too, Nathan Sinclair." Months passed. Madison finished her novel and found an agent. Nathan navigated his empire with renewed focus, Madison by his side. Eleanor threw them an engagement party before Nathan even proposed, insisting it would manifest destiny. "Mother, that's not how manifestation works," Nathan had said, exasperated. "Isn't it?" Eleanor had replied, smug as ever. One evening, they returned to the college library where it all began. It was late, the building nearly empty. They wandered through the stacks, fingers trailing over worn spines. "I used to watch you," Nathan admitted. "During study sessions. You'd bite your lip when you were concentrating. I found it distracting." Madison laughed. "You never said anything." "I was terrified." He stopped, turning to face her. "You were this brilliant, passionate woman who didn't care about my name or my money. You saw me, the real me, and I didn't know what to do with that. And now? Now I know." He sank to one knee. Madison's breath caught, her hands flying to her mouth. "Madison Hayes," Nathan said, pulling out a ring. "Simple, elegant, perfect. I spent 10 years trying to forget you. And then you walked back into my life, chaos and all, and reminded me what it feels like to be whole. I don't want to spend another day without you. Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down her face. "Yes. 1,000 times. Yes." He slid the ring onto her finger, then stood, sweeping her into a kiss that tasted like promises and forever. When they finally pulled apart, Madison laughed through her tears. "Your mother is going to be insufferable." "Completely insufferable," Nathan agreed. "But she'll be right. She always is." They walked out of the library hand in hand, the same way they'd walked through the past months, together, messy, imperfect, and utterly in love. And as they stepped into the night, the city lights glowing around them, Madison realized something. This wasn't a fairy tale. It was better. It was real. 6 months later, Madison stood in a bridal suite at Sinclair Estate, staring at her reflection. The dress was ivory silk, simple and elegant, exactly what she'd wanted. Her hair fell in soft waves, a small orchid tucked behind her ear. Eleanor's touch. "You look beautiful," Eleanor said, adjusting Madison's veil with misty eyes. Nathan is going to cry. Don't tell him I said that. Madison laughed, her own eyes damp. Thank you. For everything. Nonsense. You gave me my son back. Eleanor squeezed her hand. That's a debt I can never repay. Music drifted up from the garden. It was time. Madison walked down the aisle, past rows of friends and family, but she only saw Nathan. He stood beneath an arch of white roses, and when their eyes met, his composure cracked. Tears slipped down his cheeks, and he didn't bother wiping them away. She reached him, and he took her hands, his grip trembling. "Hi," she whispered. "Hi," he whispered back, voice rough. The ceremony was a blur. Words spoken, vows exchanged, rings slipped on fingers. And then the officiant said, "You may kiss your bride." Nathan cupped her face, and the kiss was soft, sweet, and filled with every promise they'd ever made. The reception was joyous chaos. Eleanor gave a speech that had everyone laughing and crying. Nathan's best friend told embarrassing college stories. Madison's mother, fully recovered and beaming, danced with every guest. As the night wound down, Nathan pulled Madison onto the dance floor. They swayed slowly, the world fading around them. "Happy?" he asked. "Deliriously," Madison said, resting her head on his shoulder. "Good." He pressed a kiss to her hair. "Because I plan to spend the rest of my life making sure you stay that way." Madison pulled back, meeting his gaze. "You know what I realized?" "What?" "Your mother was right. About everything." Nathan groaned. "Please don't tell her that. Too late. I already did." He laughed, the sound rich and warm, and spun her around. Madison threw her head back, joy bubbling up from somewhere deep inside. Later, they stood on the terrace, watching the last guests depart. The moon hung low, casting silver light over the gardens. "What are you thinking?" Madison asked. Nathan was quiet for a moment, then said, "That 10 years ago, I walked away from the best thing that ever happened to me, and somehow, impossibly, I got a second chance." Madison laced her fingers through his. "We both did." "Promise me something," Nathan said, turning toward her. "Anything. Promise me we'll always find our way back, no matter what, even if life gets messy or complicated or hard. We'll find our way back to this." "To us." Madison stood on her toes, kissing him softly. "I promise." They stood there, two people who'd found each other twice, wrapped in each other's arms, the future stretching bright and uncertain before them. And as the night deepened and stars emerged, one truth remained clear. This wasn't the ending. It was the beginning, the best kind of beginning. One built on truth, tested by fire, and strong enough to last forever. Madison smiled against Nathan's shoulder, her heart full to bursting. She'd walked into Sinclair Estate months ago as a struggling librarian with nothing to lose. She was leaving as Nathan Sinclair's wife, a published author, and a woman who'd learned the most important lesson of all. Love, real love, was messy and complicated and terrifying, but it was also worth every risk. Worth every tear. Worth everything. "Ready to go home?" Nathan asked, his breath warm against her ear. Madison looked up at him, her husband, her partner, her home. "With you," she said. "Always." And hand in hand, they walked into the rest of their lives. Together. So, what did you think? Drop a comment below and rate this story from 0 to 10. And don't forget to subscribe for more romance stories that'll make your heart race. See you in the next one.